Welcome back. My next guest is from my home state of South Carolina. Interesting guy. Met him just recently. He was a state senator. Before that, he was a member of the state house. Now he wants to go after a fairly well-known U.S. congressman. His name is Mick Mulvaney, and he's going to be running against Mr. Spratt from South Carolina. Welcome to the show. Tell me, what do you think about the fact that nobody's talking about an organization like the Arab League or the Gulf Cooperation Council, all these organizations that have really been formed by Arabs which kind of don't like us in general?
We talked about that before going on. It's a tremendous example of one of the ancillary injuries that this healthcare debate has done to the country.
It has sucked that oxygen out.
Here we are talking about something that nobody really cares that much about. It's not the jobs, it's not the economy, it's not the spending. We've got all of these issues in the Middle East that are going ignored. We saw the Vice President go just last week on what could only be described as amateur hour. It's a perfect example of the current Mideast policy of trying to be all things to all people, and I think it's leading us down the wrong road.
Mr. John Spratt voted for the health care bill.
He did.
Would you have voted for it?
No.
Do you think some of the people in South Carolina will benefit from it?
Do I think some of the people in South Carolina benefit? Not nearly as much as the folks who will pay the price for it. There's no question about that. This is going to crush our small business. We're looking at an unemployment rate in my county right now, Mallory, of almost 20%. Statewide, it's over 12%. This is a death knell to small business. I think you saw that on the national scale, Caterpillar said this was going to cost them $100 million. Those are businesses that will leave to go do business someplace else once health care is implemented. We've learned the hard way in South Carolina what that means with the textile jobs a decade ago. My fear is we're getting ready to see the same thing again, and that most South Carolinians will be much worse off with it.
If you were in the United States Congress, what would you do?
I tell people when I'm out on the stump, listen, you probably own 3 or 4 different kinds of insurance. You own car insurance, homeowners insurance, and health insurance. On your car insurance, you shop for it, you know what it costs, and when you have to make a claim against it, you know how much it costs to repair your window, and you make a decision based upon those economic factors as to whether or not to make a claim on the insurance or pay for it out of your pocket. None of what I've just said describes health care in this country. You don't pay for it, you don't know what it costs, you don't make any economic decisions. As a result, by the way, you see health care costs going up dramatically in the last 20 years, and those other types of insurance where people are actually in charge of their own money actually rising less than inflation. So that's what I tell people. It's let's try and make the health care system closer to the other types of private insurance systems.
There are other issues besides health care. They've kind of fallen away and gotten to the background. One was cap and trade. A United States Senator from the state of South Carolina voted for it. Another United States Senator was very much against it. Which side are you on?
It makes for good local politics, doesn't it? And if you're a Republican in South Carolina, I know you get the same questions, which is, are you a Jim DeMint Republican? Are you a Lindsey Graham Republican? I think it's a false question. I know Jim better than
that was a major question at the gubernatorial debates down there.
Was it the other? Yeah, that's right.
And everybody actually did take a side.
Yeah, and I'm much closer friends with Jim. I just happen to know Jim personally better than I know Lindsey. Philosophically, I'm probably more closely aligned with Jim than I am with Lindsey.
Free markets.
I love them.
Big government.
Not a fan.
What do we do? What would you do? What specifically would you do? How do we bring this deficit down? How do we create more freedom for everybody?
Well, you look at health care, for example. Mr. Spratt is going out and telling people that we are going to have better services for less money once the government controls health care. That's actually a line that he used in the health care forum that prompted me to run in this race. Better services for less money. But we can do that in this country. We really can. In fact, we do it all the time, but government never leads the way on that. That description only fits one part of our economy, and that's the free market. That's the individuals making decisions about their own money. So the answer does not lie in bigger government. The answer lies in more private enterprise.
Private enterprise. What about oil? We talked about Arab, we talked about cap, we talked about the Arab world a little bit, we talked about cap and trade. Without cap and trade, how do we get to a less dependence on oil
what people don't recognize, I think, is we have tremendous untapped potential here in this country.
You're saying drill?
I'm saying drill. I'm saying drill for oil, drill for natural gas. New technology is leading. I think it was a large Gulf of Mexico discovery reported just this morning or just yesterday. So the opportunities are certainly there for us to develop our natural resources. Clean coal is something that really has gotten a bad name in the last couple of years. We have enough coal to last us decades, if not centuries, in this country. And that's the type of thing that I think allows us to separate the energy debate from the foreign policy debate. The energy debate should be about energy. The foreign policy should be about foreign policy. Right now, we can't have that debate separate simply because our interests are so heavily tied to Mideast oil.
Tell me about the unemployment in your district and what you would do to help you. We're against the stimulus bill, both of us are.
Sure.
And I think we would. I think you would not have voted for it. I think you said that already.
Correct.
But what would you do? What can you do?
Look at what we're doing in South Carolina right now. We're trying to do everything we can, despite what the federal government is doing. We've offered tax incentives to hire people. We've tried to make the Employment Security Commission a little bit more.
And what's your involvement in this?
In the Senate is where most of the debate gets done. I've been in the House. I've been in the Senate in South Carolina, and if there's anything about the House that moves very, very quickly, and the Senate does not. So we were involved, for example, on the union card check bill just a couple weeks ago on guaranteeing that private right to a secret vote for union elections. Those are the types of things that encourage business to move to South Carolina. We're trying to create an environment in which businesses can flourish. Boeing just announced a major investment down in your part of the state near Charleston. So we know that business is out there. We know that folks want to grow business. We know that folks want to move business. We need to create that environment that allows them to do that. They're certainly not doing that these days in Washington.
What should Washington do tomorrow? What would you do tomorrow other than health care? Let's put health care on the side for that. What should Washington do immediately? What specifically?
Stop spending. And I would
propose
Where do we cut? 10% across the board right now, number one. Number two, no increases to federal expenditures until the revenues catch up with the expenditures. None. That we will sit here and stay with the same size government until we grow into the revenue side. And then going forward, we limit the growth of government. We tie that to things such as population growth and household incomes. The government should only grow as quickly as those who are paying for it.
Can anything like that be done in Washington?
I think so. I really do. And I think that what you're going to see, especially if the Republicans take back the House, is this very strong message that we tried this. You know, we believed Mr. Obama when he said that he was going to be different, that we were going to have some hope and some change. But really what we got is an extreme left-wing policy. We do not want to go that way as a country. And I think if the Republicans take over the House especially, or the House and the Senate, you'll get that message and have a chance to do some things like that.
Let's talk politics for a second. Why do you think you're able to defeat a man like John Spratt? He's pretty popular in his district. A 28-year incumbent who's also the budget chairman. He's changed. He really has. You go back and you look at his voting record from a decade ago, and he voted with his party 70-80% of the time. Last year was 98. There was a time when John Spratt would have been the leader of those Blue Dog Democrats who were fighting against health care. Folks who were on TV every day saying, listen, I think this is bad for the country. I'm going to have the nerve to go against my party and stand for it. That was his reputation. That is what he has been for 28 years in the 5th District of South Carolina. That changed when he became the budget chairman, and I think the folks are going to penalize him for it in November. Wow. Has there been any polling?
We're up by 8 points amongst independents. We're down by 6 across the board, but 30% of the people still think that John Spratt voted against health care.
They think he voted against health care?
That's his reputation.
Wow. What other issues that aren't in the forefront would you want to tackle in the United States Congress?
You know, jobs is really what it is. If you're from South Carolina right now and you're not talking about jobs, you're not paying attention to anything.
Education?
Education, to be honest with you, to be candid, I'm not sure the federal government can fix education.
Can you tell our viewers what you would recommend that they do to make America a better place?
Sure. Send the message. Send the message that the direction that you see the country going in is wrong. Send the message that you don't want to live in a welfare state. You don't want to live in a nanny state. Those things, by the way, were meaningless maybe to most people 2 years ago, 6 months ago, but they're real now, and it's happening in this country. Send that message by changing Congress. And if you live in a district where you cannot change your congressman, find a district, maybe it's the 5th District of South Carolina, where you can change Congress, one congressperson at a time. That is the strongest message I think that we could all send in November.